The president of the Ukrainian Aviation Association of Pilots and Aircraft Owners, Hennadiy Khazan, is confident that Germany will deliver a sufficient number of Taurus missiles to Ukraine to destroy Russian underground targets. When we receive the German Taurus missiles, we cannot simply rename them and use them as Ukrainian missiles. In this case, international regulations apply. Ukraine is the end user, and there is a special certificate for that. Furthermore, when joint production begins, Germany will still have rights to certain components, and Ukraine will remain the end user. However, based on official statements, we have grounds to believe that these missiles will hit the targets they are intended for. Khazan explained this opinion during a broadcast on Espreso. The aviation expert clarified that the Taurus missiles were designed to destroy underground targets. It is important to explain one very crucial point. Taurus missiles have one very important advantage. They are intended for destroying underground bunkers and storage facilities, including command centers and so on. Therefore, I believe Ukraine could receive 3 to 4 times more Taurus missiles than the number of underground enemy facilities. These targets need not just to be hit but completely destroyed, he added. Earlier, media reported that the German government plans to limit information about military aid deliveries to Ukraine. At the same time, Berlin will no longer comment on plans regarding the transfer of Taurus missiles to Kiev. There are no longer any restrictions on the range of weapons delivered to Ukraine, neither by the UK, France, nor us. There are no restrictions by the US either, Merz said, recently. Thanks to a more efficient engine, Hoffman explains, Taurus can also reach deeper into Russia than other systems currently in Ukraine's arsenal, and packs more of an explosive punch than Ukraine's new crop of deep-strike missile drones. Despite a publicly advertised range of 560 or more kilometers, Hoffman believes they can reach 700 to 800 kilometers. They are, however, air-launched, so they originate from planes that would not be over the front line, where they would be vulnerable to Russian anti-aircraft fire. Taurus can be easily adapted to F-16 fighter jets, which are now deployed in Ukraine, and to Gripen, a Swedish aircraft that could be on their way soon. Taurus is the best weapon system in Western arsenals to take down bridges, said Fabian Hoffmann, a doctoral research fellow at the University of Oslo specializing in missile technology. So in theory, if Ukraine wants to take down the Crimean Bridge, Taurus would be the ideal weapon system to do that. Experts believe that the Taurus is unlikely to be a game-changer in the war and that while targeting the Crimean Bridge would be a big symbolic victory for Kiev, Ukraine needs it primarily to replenish its long-range weapon stockpile. Storm Shadow, Scalp e.g., they are running out sooner or later. Taurus is another very capable cruise missile that could be used by Ukrainians to just extend the availability of its long-range range strike capability, Hoffman said. This is a key advantage. It's mostly about the quantity and the number of missile systems available in Ukraine's arsenal.
Defence and energy experts warn that Britain's gas pipelines and power lines are highly vulnerable to attack by Russia and other enemies, Politico reports. They say critical gas pipelines, power lines and data cables are a weak point in Britain's security, leaving the country vulnerable to potentially catastrophic sabotage by Russia or other enemies. Analysts, including former senior government officials, say the danger is being underestimated. In an interview with the publication, former Defence and Energy Secretary Grant Shapps noted that complacency on this issue is really worrying. Our underwater infrastructure is kind of a weak point and not enough is being done. It's not a question of if there will ever be a problem, it's a question of when. Shapps said, undersea infrastructure is one of the areas that will be considered in the defence review. Ministers said Britain and its allies have already stepped up naval patrols and monitoring to combat threats to infrastructure. Among the most potentially vulnerable areas of Britain's infrastructure, experts say, is the Langeld gas pipeline, which is used to supply gas from Norway. Langeld is our biggest weak point. It doesn't mean we'll all die if it blows up, but it does mean everything will quickly become much more expensive. There's a risk of gas rationing, said Adam Bell, the former head of the British government's Energy Strategy Department. At the same time, other analysts believe that the likelihood of an attack on the gas pipeline is low. Russia has stepped up sabotage against Europe over aid to Ukraine. According to media reports, the number of Russian attacks quadrupled from 2022 to 2023, then tripled from 2023 to 2024. In February 2025, sabotage against warships was recorded in Germany. The commander of the country's navy, Jan Christian Kak, noted the growing Russian threat. As reported by NTV, the commander of the country's navy, Jan Christian Kak, reported sabotage which damaged more than one military vessel. The Bundeswehr is aware of cases of incursions into naval bases from land and sea, as well as attempts to approach soldiers returning home. Our assessment: they are testing us. They are trying to destabilize our society, both at the national level and within the alliance, and perhaps they are creating the ground for further active military actions. The commander was asked to comment on media reports that one of the sabotage incidents involved the corvette Emden, which had not yet been handed over to the Navy. During an inspection in January, it was discovered that several kilograms of metal shavings had been dropped into the ship's power plant. Kak did not confirm the incident.
The summer offensive of the Russian occupation army will be choked by unrealistic goals. The Russians' reaction to failures at the front may well be a real threat of rebellion within the country. This opinion was expressed by political advisor Alexander Karabin in the author's project, Theme from Mozychuk. The Russians are actually entering the summer campaign, just as Ukraine entered the summer campaign of 2023. That is, the mythologum, we will now reach Melitopol. So the Russians now want to seize the Donetsk region. Unfortunately for us 2 years ago and fortunately for us now, the summer campaign for the Russians will end the same way. That is, these are media assaults. This is a situation where the Russians will lose, Karabin is sure. According to him, even some Russian bloggers are openly predicting such a development of events. Russian military bloggers are talking about this specifically. That Russia could find itself in the situation of 1917 in October or November, when the Treaty of Brest was signed, a separate peace agreement under which Russia ceded 780,000 square kilometers to leave World War I and bayonets returned inside Russia. This is a very important thing. There will be a Russian summer offensive campaign, this is clear, but there is no need to be afraid of it, emphasized Alexander Karabin. Let us recall that the offensive campaign of the Russian Federation pursues the goal of completely occupying Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson and Zaporizhia regions in the summer and autumn, and if possible, adding the territories of Sumy, Kharkiv and Dnipropetrovsk regions. But for now the enemy does not have the strength to completely capture the 4 regions of Ukraine. Sumy and Kharkiv main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense reported about the occupiers' offensive actions more than a year ago. Russian troops then began to operate in the Kharkiv region, but did not have any significant results. Fierce fighting is currently taking place in the Volchansk-Tycho area.